Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. So the Fable, The Killer Who Doesn't Kill, is a sequel to the 2019 movie, The Fable. And so in this 2021 version, we're actually continuing the whole adventures of Akira Sato and Yoko and the rest of the characters in this small town of Osaka, him trying to be an ordinary person. But now in the mix, we have some new characters. We have this girl who's in a wheelchair who's been paralyzed, and she has a connection to Akira. And plus, we also have some other baddies in this. You know, the whole gang mafia thing, they're all back. And at the same time, we also have a lot of our returning characters, including Yoko, Masaki, and some of the other people who are around the first movie. And this movie is definitely different from the first one. Whereas the first movie was more of an action comedy, this is more of an action drama with a few comedy elements. And so getting to the things that I did enjoy about this movie is first and foremost the action. Now, very similar to the first movie, when the action comes, it is pretty awesome. A lot of gun action, some hand-to-hand combat, and many other types of action. But the difference with the second movie versus the first one is that there's not quite as much action, and it takes a lot longer to get there. Whereas the first movie, there's action throughout the entire movie. And so that is something that I did enjoy that is here, but is not quite as often as the first movie. And then the second thing that I enjoyed is, of course, the characters. Akira, Yoko, Masaki, a lot of the other members from the first movie, some of the gang members, they're all back. And then we have the new characters. There's this girl in a wheelchair, there's the mob, I would say boss kind of guy, and there's an enforcer as well. They're the new characters, but at least for me, my favorite characters are the original characters, and of course a special appearance by Jackal. So if you haven't seen the first movie, then you definitely want to go watch that first. So I will leave a review in the description area below to see that. And then the final thing that this movie has going for it is, I would say, the overall world building that it has. It still has those elements of the first movie. So there's still some mystery here. It sheds a little more light into the backgrounds of what Akira did and how it affected other people. And so those things really put the movie in a different direction, a lot different than the first movie. And so those are the main things that I did enjoy about the sequel. For serious YouTubers, check out TubeBuddy, the premier tool news at GeekOutdoors.com. Get more done today by checking out the affiliate link in the description area below. Now, getting to the negatives of this movie, wow, this is really a hard one. Because I love that first movie so much, I was expecting more of the same or better. But in this case, the second one is really a different type of movie. Whereas the first one was an action comedy, this is more of an action drama, you know, where it's really about Akira and this girl in a wheelchair and how his actions affect everything else, and how her actions or the things that were done to her affect her, you know, and her world. And those things honestly were just not really fun. You know, for most of the movie, I was just really waiting for the next action scene, and that's something that I really did not expect. Especially after seeing the first movie, where every single second was just awesome. I was having a lot of laughs. In this case, it really takes itself too seriously, in my opinion, and it's a really darker movie. And I don't know if that was intentional or if they're just following the manga, but that's really the first negative that I could see with this movie. There's action here, but the whole drama part, I just did not enjoy. And then the second negative of this movie is the new characters. The girl in the wheelchair and the mob boss and enforcer, they weren't interesting at all, in my opinion. And for them to spend so much time with those other characters and building this whole story around it, I really felt like it took me away from the original characters, the other characters surrounding them, the whole world and story that they built there. It was like a completely different movie and world here. And even though you get to the end of the movie, there's revelations and so forth, none of that really paid off with the characters that were here. And then I would say the final negative with this movie is that they didn't really spend enough time with the characters that we really loved in the first movie. So much of this time was spent on the newer characters. You know, Akira, the laughs and stuff weren't there. We didn't really learn anything more about him. And the same goes for Yoko, Masaki, and all of those things. None of those things that was spent so much time building in the first one are really improved or elaborated upon. And because so much time was spent with these new characters and this darker tone of this movie, in my opinion, it really made this a disappointing sequel to one of, the best action comedy movies I've ever seen. And even though I wouldn't say this is a bad movie, compared to the first one, it is a bad movie. Let's just say that, when you compare it to something that great. But other than that, I really hope that if there is another sequel to this whole Fable world, maybe a third movie, and it looks like there might be, hopefully they'll go back to the original movie type, action comedy and that whole world based upon those characters, and then any new characters will just help supplement what's already there and just improve that. So those are my overall thoughts on the Fable, The Killer Who Doesn't Kill. I had a lot of high hopes on this movie, and it was one that really disappointed me in the end. So if you actually had any thoughts on this, whether it's the first movie or the second one, be sure to leave that in the comment area below. And if you did want to see more of my action film reviews or show reviews, I do have an entire playlist. I'll leave that in the description area below. So as always, if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And if you're a creative geek like me, and you want to get exclusive access to more content that I don't put out here publicly on my YouTube channel, then join my Gold Content Creators Group, where you're going to get content like this and more for all the creative geeks out there. And the best part is, all of this is free. Simply head over to the link below, check out my page, and sign up for my Gold Content Creators Group.